My husband and I bought this house in 2005, and we have 143 acres. And the house was built in 1868, so a nice old house. Our architect referred Badger to us, and we checked him out, and we loved him because he was the Dripping Springs local builder. And we heard he was great.
Well, it wasn't love until you came over to the house and met my wife. Skylar's what sold it. As soon as she locked eyes with my wife, they're like, these are our people. It's been great to be a part of such a historical project. And we mainly do new construction. And there's a lot of new construction here, but there's a lot of not new construction as well. So one thing I really want to mention is the quality of a house and the way that it turns out and your relationship with your client really is determined by your subcontractors. And these guys that I have working for me, I mean, they're just the best. My plumber is my best friend. We work together nearly every day, just about all day long. My carpenter, I've worked with him since 1998. We've been in business for ourselves since 2005. And just the interior trim carpenters, my electricians, my HVAC guys, I've been working with the same companies for 26 years, and that's unheard of in today's market. And so a lot of these pains that other builders have with getting subcontractors, I just don't have that problem at all. And we all know each other, we all have each other's phone numbers, and so it makes it really easy and really fun. I would never hire anybody to be a superintendent because this is the part of the building process that I love, is being out on site. And so I've got somebody that helps me with my books, my wife, and everything else we just love. And it's one of those situations where when you love what you do, you really see the end result is just fantastic.
It was difficult. Not any builder could do this for sure. It's because it was such an old house and we had no idea what we were getting into at all. I mean, we had to change a lot because we had no idea what was behind the walls. We found all kinds of treasures. So it was very interesting.
We didn't know what kind of a foundation the house had until we brought a mini excavator over here and started digging down. And then we realized there was no foundation. They just dug as far as they could back in the day and started putting the big limestone blocks down. So That was really interesting. It was a lot of learning as well.
And the house is 1868, so it's a really old house with tons and tons of history. And so we wanted to keep it. We wanted to keep the old part, so we just built around new to the old part in the middle, and we wanted to try to keep it as old and natural as we could. Oh, of course. It was great. It was great working with Badger, and it was great because he has known these people for so long, so we felt like we could trust, and that we knew that it would be great from the beginning to the end. This house is really old. It was built in 1868, and it has tons of charm and character. You can just see how old this rock is. Okay, and then this is a great hallway, and we were lucky because we got to meet the guy that owned it for 80 years. And he said that this was a dog run and a sleeping porch. They used to sleep here, so when it was really hot, it was a lot cooler. And then you can see all the old rock and wood that's right there. That is original to the house. And that beam is original, which is really cool. Okay, so this is my favorite room, and you can see how short the doors are and how they're not very wide either. So this is the old part that we took layers off this wall, and you can see over here in the corner how the different layers of the plaster, and then there are all kinds of little nails up there, and so we have the different layers, and you can just see the old rock, and we had to, it's almost disintegrated, and so we had to redo in between each and every one, so it was a lot of work doing that. And then this is all original too, and then you can see this is the real rock. This is what it looked like, all this.
This is one of my favorite rooms of the house too, and a difficult decision that we had to make was what to do with the fireplace. It was just all kind of falling down. We wanted to keep everything as original as possible, but we ended up redoing the limestone there. And the original ceiling was just beautiful. Did this room have a false ceiling in it, or was it this height to begin with?
Was lower, and then we
took out.
Yes.
It had some sheetrock in here that we took out.
Yes.
And we took out the ceiling joists, and this beauty was underneath. And so we made a few repairs to it. Dago did. Dago also did this amazing scribe work on the sides where the sheetrock and wood and stone all transition together. He even got some extra material that we had from the ceiling in the family room and built this barn style door, and he picked out some great hardware for that. So the amount of work that went into this project is absolutely staggering.
Okay, so this area was the old kitchen, and so there was actually at a time a fireplace here, and then the kitchen went beyond here. There's a bathroom right there, so this was our kitchen. We had our table was right here, and it's crazy that this used to be the kitchen. Okay, so another history about this house is that the guy that built it, Lorenzo Moore, he built the house and then he was killed by Comanche Indians and he was scalped. Even across the street, there's his tombstone that says killed by Indians on it, which is really interesting and really a part of this whole history of this land and of this old house. And that's why we wanted to keep a lot of it old so we could continue to tell the story about him.
My favorite story that Doug told me is the owner heard a ruckus down at the creek, and he went down there and found out that the Indians got a hold of one of his horses. I think it was a foal, and he went down there and confronted them, and they killed him over it and ended up scalping him. Last guy in Hays County to get scalped by Indians, I believe, is what Doug said.
Yeah. So this was the old master bedroom, and it's crazy how big it is and how high the ceilings are. It has 12-foot ceilings, and these are original ceilings in here. And there was a bathroom back there, but we added on a whole new suite in there, and this room turned out beautiful.
Yeah, and from my perspective, this was built with dirt floors. This didn't even have real floors in here until they remodeled it in maybe the 40s or 50s, 1950s maybe?
Probably 50s.
And so when we came in, we took all of the old flooring out. A lot of that was rotten around the fireplace. And we actually poured concrete beams in here. So we have a really stable foundation in here now, a vapor barrier for this beautiful flooring. And so we had to modernize it a bit, but it's amazing in how good a shape this room was for as old as it was.
One of the great things about this property is that we have Barton Creek running through, and we have probably 1.5 miles of Barton Creek, and we've got such great soil from Barton Creek that this ranch used to be a tomato farm, and it serviced to HEB, which is really cool, I think.
Their location is just amazing here. It's actually the headwaters to Barton Creek, just on the other side of the road. If you look around, it wasn't until I read the book that I realized that you can see the way all the land flows right into Barton Creek. And this is the actual headwaters. And so if it weren't for stewards of the land, like who you all bought the property from and the way that you guys treat the creek, you know, there wouldn't be a Barton Springs in Austin, and you know, everything would probably be dry. So everybody pays very close attention to the creek here.
And the master bath here was where the cistern was. It was just like right over there. And they used it, it was like a water tank, and then they used it for trash. They threw bottles and they threw all kinds of trash and they burned. And so when we were trying to build, we had to put a foundation there and cover everything up. And so we found all kinds of good treasures.
So yeah, none of this was on the plans. This is pretty much what we did in my personal house, and y'all came over to meet us and fell in love with it. So the ceilings in here are super high because we had to actually encapsulate with this roof line part of the old house so we could all tie it together. And they came over to my house. They really enjoyed looking at this beetle kill pine, and so we ended up sourcing that locally from a vendor. Beetle kill pine is decaying pine trees from the New Mexico, Colorado forest floor. And this is actually V-groove material here. And then we got the 8x8 Doug fir just to kind of add to it, and it just turned out phenomenal. It's one of my favorite things on the house.
Yes, and I had to have special chandeliers because I had to have something big and beautiful. So I had these custom made, and love how it all turned out.
We had to move them a few times to get right where you wanted them.
And they're perfect.
That's part of it. That's part of it.
Not too low, not too high.
Yeah, so this is an old window out of the kitchen, and Tiff had the great idea. Let's just leave it open and turn it into some kind of an art niche. And so we ended up putting some shelves in it. I think she had some big plans of having a cover over it with a painting, but with the barn door the way it is, I think